This is part 4 of the Pathfinder 2nd edition Fantasy Grounds Ruleset Release 18 update. And I'm going to cover off the new effects that relate to saving throws. So in the Release 18 testing thread, under the new effects, there's a link to a test wiki, which is just a Google Doc at this stage. It's read-only. But this does detail 2 new saving throw related effects: save result and save damage percentage, basically. These are both being introduced to basically cover off things like the Juggernaut class feature, the evasion class feature, where the result of a save can change. And also the percentage damage from a basic saving throw can also be adjusted based off those individual class features primarily. So these are effects that would be applied to the character. Normally they'd be in the character effects because these are probably permanent, but if a short-term effect, a spell or something like that gave them, they would have to be applied in the combat tracker. But let's just investigate the actual format of those and how they actually work. So I've just quickly made a story entry that has the details of the 2 new effects in, so we can refer to that as we look through. And like I mentioned, a lot of this is actually for things like class features. So if we just have a look at a barbarian, various class features that they get at later levels. If we look out for the A to show that there's some automation in there. So example, Juggernaut. If we look in here, it gives you Master and Fortitude saves, but we have an effect that's going to be applied to the character when this is applied, added when this barbarian gets to level 7. Effect char, so that just means it's going to be a character effect, and here's the actual effect here: save result +1 fortitude success. So looking at that, so that save result, it needs a number, so that's the +1 there, then the result, the save, and then there's a trait. The trait's optional. So basically the result here, the result and the save, they don't have to be in that order, as you can see, but basically this is saying when we roll a fortitude save, if we get a success, we increase the success by 1, +1. So this can be negative or positive. So that's just covering off really, this format allows us to cover off all of the different types of save result changes because we specify the actual type of save, the number of changes, be it increasing the result of the success 1 level or reducing it 1 level, and what that basic actual 1 is. So if we look at just move Juggernaut off to the side and go down and have a look at Greater Juggernaut, received at 13. This has a couple of things in there. This has save result +1 fortitude, so similar to that. But this is on a critical failure. So basically, when there's a critical failure on a fortitude save, they get a failure because it increases the level of success by 1. And we see that here. When you roll a critical failure on a fortitude save, you get a failure instead. So that's kind of how we program that up. And also, this is an example of the save damage per, the save damage percentage. When you roll a failure on a fortitude save against an effect that deals damage, you halve the damage you take. So this is similar. Fortitude save, failure, we take 50% of the damage. That's what the 50 means, because it's a percentage, save damage percentage. So that covers all of that off. There's other abilities like this, like a rogue has evasion. So we're going to see very, very similar code there, but for a reflex save. So here we say, reflex +1 on a success. We get a critical, and I assume they have a greater and improved evasion. And here we see, on a critical failure of a reflex save, we get a failure, and on a failure on a reflex save, we take 50% damage rather than 100% damage, which you'd normally take on a reflex save that does damage. So this covers off really most of those actual options that are available to code all of these up. Now there's an optional trait that allows you to, rather than just saying all fortitude saves, you can actually trigger off based with one of the traits that's relevant to a saving throw. So an example of this is, I can't remember what it's called, hopefully I can get breath control. This is, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against inhaled threats. And if you roll a success on a saving throw, you get a critical success instead. So here we have, the effect save +1 circumstance against inhaled, but we also have save result +1 success against inhaled. So any saving throw, because we're not specifying fortitude, reflex, or will in here, and if we get a success, we get a critical success, but only if there's the inhaled trait as part of that saving throw. Now, you'll see when actually characters trigger saving throws that there's various traits added to that saving throw. So we'll just have a look at color spray here. All of the traits that are part of that spell will be added to that. Also the tradition of the actual the spell class that's rolling that. So when we make a saving throw, you'd see those traits come up. So arcane, illusion, incapacitation, visual, and magic as well, because it is a spell. So it's tagging on magic there. So this can be, we can have effects that look at the various traits. Within there, we can match both on the usual save. We can have a trait as well, which is what we've got. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. Lots of windows. If we have the inhaled trait here, so say if it was poison that was actually inhaled, and when the saving throw to do with the poison, if the poison had the inhaled trait, this would trigger. There can be other things in here, like you can see, arcane, illusion, incapacitation. Things like burning hands have fire in that. So you can see, do I have burning hands? Yes, I do. Evocation fire, so as well saving throws against, a particular school of magic, like evocation. So this can actually make it quite flexible in terms of, when do these actual, the save results, the save damage per, and even just, a save bonus actually get applied to a saving throw. It makes it really, really flexible and quite powerful as to how you're going to use that. So how do these two new effects, save result and save damage per, actually interact? What order do they process? How do they actually affect a saving throw roll? So just looking at the Rogue's level 13 class feature here, improved evasion, the wording is when you roll a critical failure on a reflex save, you get a failure instead. When you roll a failure on a reflex save against a damaging effect, you take half damage. So the key here is that if you roll a critical failure, it becomes a failure, but then because you didn't roll the failure, you don't take half damage. So essentially a critical failure becomes a failure and you just take normal damage. This save damage per, save damage percent, effectively doesn't trigger then because you didn't roll a failure. Your final result was a failure, but you rolled a critical failure. So the way the system will look at it, it looks at the save damage per first. Did we roll a failure? And if so, we'd get 50%. If we didn't, then any save result effects to change the final results get actually applied. So let's look at that in action. If we have a 13th level rogue in the combat tracker who has the various improved evasion and evasion applied to them, and we're going to have Wizzy, our second level wizard. I'll just do some juggling of windows here. Who's going to attack him with Burning Hands, which is a reflex save, half on success, so that's a basic success. That's a basic save, sorry, which follows the usual critical failure, double damage, failure, normal damage, success, half damage, critical success, 0 damage. But what we're going to do, a DC 17 with somebody who has legendary reflex plus 26, that's always going to be a critical success, essentially. unless they roll a 1. No, that would be a success if they roll a 1. So what we're going to do is just to try, we'll give it -25 to his saving throw there, and we'll trigger that saving throw. So this is a failure. So they actually rolled a 9 against the DC 17, so that is an actual failure. We don't have anything that changes a failure to the save result, but we do have the save damage per, which makes it 50%. And so we can see that here that he's going to take half damage from that. We can just prove that by rolling the damage. And there it takes 9, so only takes 4. This is probably going to be because we have the goblin feature, which is resist 6 fire, which is a Charhide goblin feature, which is basically equal to the half of their level. Equal to half your level, yeah, he's 13th level, so it's 6, so resist 5. Resist, so actually I'll take that off for the future examples, but that's just another example of what we can do with character effects in there for this goblin rogue. So for a half damage entry there, because we rolled a failure, the save damage per effect was actually being taken into account. So let's see if we can get a critical failure on that. He rolls a 13, it's another failure, so it's half damage. Okay, let's really make it, there you go. So he rolled -14, which is definitely a critical failure. And you can see here that it says degree of success effect has changed it to a failure, +1 degree of success. So that's our improved evasion save result here. If we roll a critical failure on a reflex save, we add 1 level to it, +1 level of success makes a critical failure a failure. That doesn't trigger the save damage per, because you need to roll a failure, not get a failure. So now if we do damage, this should be the full damage, and it is. It's 9 damage has been done to Tester there. So another example, we'll try and simulate just a success this time, just to cover off all of the options available to this rogue. So yeah, you can see a 22 against a DC of 17 is a normal success, but because we have evasion, which changes a reflex success +1, +1 degree of success becomes a critical success, and so we take no damage. So we can roll the damage, but we're going to take 0 there. So that covers off all of these effects for the rogue class abilities that actually affect reflex. The the save result that changes a specific saving throw with a specific result changes the degree of success 1 level in this example, and the save damage per, the save damage percent that will change the amount of the percentage damage that the character is going to take based off the original rolled saving throw result, not off anything that's changed by the save result. So I hope that's given you a good overview of these 2 new effects, also how they tie in with the automation that's now available with Release 18. So as we add class features, as we level up, the features actually get added to the abilities tab, and they also then apply some automation features such as changing reflex to legendary and adding these character effects, save result and save damage per, so that they're always active when that character is doing saving throws. Of course, the gotcha here is that those saving throws have to be triggered by the system so that we know the traits of the saving throw and also the DC of the saving throw. Probably in a future release, I'll make some way of tagging the system waiting for a saving throw so that the players can roll them themselves. But I think most people who get used to using Fantasy Grounds are fine with the automated rolling of the saves if it's going to add all of this additional functionality in, and they can see that their saving throws appearing as well when they're actually rolling. So I think for most people it's fine. But Yeah, I know some players like to roll their own dice, but for release 18, that functionality is not being there. Maybe release 20 or beyond that might be the functionality to allow players to roll their own saving throws, because I really don't see it as a core thing that needs to be developed at this point in time. It's nice to have, absolutely, but I think there's other things I can be spending my time on rather than that. So thanks again for watching. Hope you're happy and enthusiastic even about all the various new features in release 18, and hopefully that'll the testing that's going on now won't show any big defects or anything like that. But if you are involved with the testing and reporting issues in the forums, thank you very much. That will help to make this a much more robust and clean solution for everybody. Thanks for watching.